New Year's Day, Pat Mahomes threw a beautiful 89-yard pass to Demarcus Robinson on Sunday to give him 50 passing touchdowns this season. Came as a big surprise to Chiefs punter Dustin Colquitt. Take a listen.
Now back-to-back drops by Conley and Kelsey makes it 3rd and long and really puts him in a tough spot.
3rd and 10, Mahomes, straight drop. Stepping up and throwing long. Has a man downfield and he's got it! Demarcus Robinson!
Wow, this is unreal. I mean, I thought for sure I was going to punt. I got to get my gloves. This is ridiculous, man. Oh, my gosh. Dude, this is crazy. Are you guys kidding me? Are you kidding? What?
It took me a while to figure out that it was him that was talking.
Oh, yeah. It was because he thought he's the punter.
Yeah.
So it's 3rd and long from their own 11. He's like, I'm going to have to go punt. And now he has to run all the way to the other side of the field because he's the holder for the extra point.
Such a punter, man. Wally looking like Willie Beeman out there. Beeman, I told you to get your helmet 26 seconds ago.
He was gonna, and he didn't need the gloves to punt. He thought he was gonna be punting. That was a great moment for Mahomes to eclipse the 50 touchdown mark. He had just gone over 5,000 yards passing. That was his final touchdown pass of what should be a unanimous MVP season, will be an MVP season for Patrick Mahomes.
If he can take this thing and keep this momentum, a legend, a star's already been born, but a legend is born if he's able to go to the Super Bowl and do some magic.
Last quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs to win a playoff game in Arrowhead was a different legend. His name was Joe Montana. 25 years ago. Pat Mahomes is going to have an opportunity in about 12 days to add his name to that very short list.
All right, moving on. Time for stories to start your morning. The NFL playoffs are here, and Vegas gives the New Orleans Saints the best odds to win Super Bowl 53. All right, Nick, listen closely. The Saints are plus 225, which means if you bet $100, you win 225.
Good job, Jeff.
Let me go through that one more time.
No, don't worry about that.
All right, Bart, you agree the Saints should be the favorites to win it all?
I think so because they have they got a style that can travel even though it's going to go through the Superdome, but they have Super Bowl experience and they have playmakers at every level, whether it's offensively, defensively. They can run, ground and pound you. They can take the air out of the game, but also they can beat you over the top. It's going to be interesting to see if Ted Ginn can really provide what they need, that deep threat, that explosive player, because Michael Thomas is a good player, but he's not the vertical threat that Ted Ginn can present and open everything up in the middle.
It's not surprising the two biggest favorites are the 1 seeds. They should be the biggest favorites. The Saints are the top favorite, the Chiefs right after them. What the Saints have that the Chiefs don't is they don't have a glaring weakness. The Chiefs have a glaring weakness. It's not their history, it's their defense. The Saints should be the favorite. I think most people would be very surprised if the Saints don't at least make it to the Super Bowl. I don't know if the same can be said about any team out of the AFC.
No.
All right, sticking with the NFL, yesterday 4 more teams fired their coaches. So now the Dolphins, Broncos, Bengals, and Cardinals have head coaching vacancies, bringing the grand total to 8 teams. Nick, what's your reaction to a quarter of the league having head coaching vacancies?
It's no problem. These teams are just going to go to the head coaching tree, pluck off a guy. I mean, where do they think these good coaches are going to come from? And what they did in Arizona with Steve Wilkes is an embarrassment. To fire a guy after 1 year when the quarterback he thought he was going to play got hurt. Sam Bradford got hurt. You have Josh Rosen who's not ready yet. And to fire him after 1 year, it's ridiculous. Like, I don't know where these great coaches are going to come from. I know that this is where we're at. Adam Gase gets fired and immediately goes to the top of the list of available candidates because there aren't enough head coaches to go around, evidently.
It's just the good old boys club, and it's rarely any new blood infused into head coaching. Usually you go from coordinator to coach, back to coordinator, back to position coach, back to head coach. And it just goes on, and eventually you get cycled out with the Brian Billicks, with the Fossils of the world, but then you continue to come back. Hell, throw Rex's name in there. Might as well.
Rex, I think, will take either Miami job. He wanted the Miami college job. It's gone now. Now the head coach job.
All right, on to the NBA, where James Harden has been on fire. Old school NBA jam, Nick. He dropped 43 last night. I actually knew what that was. Giving his 4th straight 40-point game. So the Rockets have now won 10 of their last 11. Nick, put Harden's hot streak in perspective for us.
I mean, it's as far as scoring wise, it is. I tweeted this last night. It's accurate. In modern NBA history, you can count on less than one hand how many guys have done this over this long of a stretch. He's done it. Jordan did it in the late 80s, and Kobe did it in his 35-point per game season. Like, that's the list of guys who have done this basically in the modern NBA. And he's, by the way, doing it while averaging nearly double-digit assists. His team is winning. It is as good of an offensive stretch over a month of basketball as we have seen since Wilt Chamberlain.
You can make the argument that he could have been the MVP for the last 3 seasons. I think people are really starting to accept his game and understand, what he brings to the table. The fact that he's able to be a scoring point guard, so to speak. Just imagine, if they would have been the first big 3 and they would have kept him instead of going with Serge Ibaka and what they could have had in OKC. They messed up.
All right, let's talk about LeBron James for a second. Still one of the game's greatest players in year 16. That's according to basketball pundits. But it's also according to LeBron James, apparently. He recently laid out what he believes was his defining moment in the NBA. It was beating the Warriors in the 2016 finals. Here's what LeBron said that moment meant to him.
That one right there made me the greatest player of all time.
For so many reasons.
I was super, super ecstatic to win one for Cleveland because of the 52-year drought. Like, I was ecstatic. Like, obviously, I showed that the first wave of emotion was when everyone saw me crying. Like, that was all for 52 years. Everything in sports was going on in Cleveland. And then after I stopped, I was like, that one right there made you the greatest player of all time. Everybody was just talking how they were the greatest team of all time. Like, they was the greatest team ever assembled. And for us to come back, the way we came back in that fashion, I was like, you did something special. That's probably one of the only times in my career I felt like, oh, like you did something special. I haven't really had time to really like sit back and think, but that was a moment.
All right, Nick, you agree with LeBron? Would you look back on that and say that was the moment?
That's the exact moment. And he's exactly right, because up until that run, LeBron was already, as far as individual statistics, on pace to become probably the greatest individual statistical player ever. It's going to be him, Kareem, and Wilt. Like, that was it. But what he didn't have was the overall team success. And what that Game 7 of that 2016 NBA Finals did was it cemented or put a cap on the greatest 5-year run any basketball player has ever had. Like, here's the 5-year run. He ended the original Big 3 in Boston with a 45-15-5 on the road, down 3-2 in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then beat the team that Bart was talking about could have become the Big 3, KD, Russ, and Harden, in the NBA Finals. The next year, his team won 27 straight games. He won not only MVP again for the 4th time, but Game 7 of the NBA Finals, hit the jump shot to seal it in the 37-12 game. The following year, went back to the finals, averaged 28 a game on 57%, and the guy guarding him got finals MVP. The next year, went back to the finals with his second best player being Matthew Dellavedova, and the guy guarding him won finals MVP despite LeBron going 36, 13, and 9 for the NBA Finals. And then that year, down 3-1 against a 73-win team, without home court advantage, with everything stacked against him, he goes 41-16-7, 41-8-11, and then 27-11-11 in a game where he hit the free throw to ice the game and had the single greatest defensive play in the history of the sport. That is the best 5-year run in the history of the game, and that run made him the greatest player in the history of the game. It's not, what's up, Mark?
Best 5-year run ever?
Yeah, tell me a better 5-year run.
How about MJ from 90 to 98?
Okay, but here's
right, and he took a year off. If he didn't take a year off, he would have won 7 in a row.
Okay, well, so find me the 5 years, Bart.
And let's talk about the assist that he got from the NBA because they suspended, Draymond Green. How about that one?
It's a really good point because the game without Draymond, he scored 41 points. And then Draymond was back for Game 6, and he scored 41 points. And Draymond was there for Game 7, and he had a triple-double to win it.
It would have never went that far. If you know the NBA.
Well, tell Draymond to keep his hands to himself.
They put one in. They put one out, man. Come on.
But
I give him some credit because he took Cleveland. He won a championship for Cleveland, which we know how difficult that is. But him saying he's the greatest player of all time, come on.
Well, you said,
come on,
you mentioned Jordan. Jordan didn't have a 5-year stretch better than that. There's no 5-year stretch any player has ever had where they've won more than 3 Finals MVPs.
Are we both using?
There isn't one.
Are we both using the same things to determine what makes the best player? You're using.
It's not numbers, man. You talk about fluffed up numbers, man. Of course, it's a different game. It's a different era.
Okay.
So of course you can put up more numbers and more statistics, especially when you're the biggest player on the court and nobody can't stop you and you can run through. I mean, MJ played in an era where it was more skill, I believe, in NBA per player, and it was a more of a physical type of game. It was a more slowed down pace. And listen, how many? Hold on.
I just want to make sure I understand, just real quick, because the point you just made was LeBron's bigger and stronger than everybody, right? And not the centers.
And the rules are offensively slant.
Okay, so LeBron's bigger and stronger than everybody, yet he wouldn't have thrived in an era that rewarded physicality?
No, he could have. But tell me this. What great player did LeBron deny a championship to?
Kevin Durant, he did it.
He got it eventually.
Okay, no.
Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing all sitting ringless because of MJ.
Yeah, absolutely correct. But you asked who he denied a championship to. He beat Kawhi Leonard for a championship, beat Tim Duncan for a championship, beat Kevin Durant for a championship.
Lost to Dirk Nowitzki.
James Harden, absolutely. And that's what made that run so impressive.
He ran to the West to run away from the Golden State Warriors to try and get Anthony Davis to come because he need help.
He ran from the West to run away from the Warriors. I don't know how that makes sense. However, the Nowitzki finals, the Mavs finals is the lowest point for any all-time great player ever. The problem for people that want to deny what they're seeing is what he followed that up with is the greatest 5-year stretch. Pick your favorite player. None of them have more finals MVPs over 5 years than LeBron did in that stretch. None of them have a more impressive individual or team resume than LeBron does over that stretch. You say LeBron ran to the West. Why did Jordan not win 8 straight? He left the sport, right? Yeah. And then did he leave for 2 full years or a year and a half? Year and a half, right? Because when he came back, he played that season. Something happened. They didn't win the championship.
Let's see, 6 is greater than 3, right?
Yeah. Oh, listen, you can always count the rings. You can always do the argument of count the rings, but in that case, then it's Russell #1, Kareem and Jordan are tied. Robert Horry's got to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
No. There's some guys that drove the bus and there's some guys that were passengers.
So Bill Russell is without question the greatest player of all time. Without question, he got 11 of them.
He's the greatest winner of all time.
Okay, all right. So
George boasts the best. He's the
Jordan's both
best player. He's
got
the
it.
best player.
Okay.
No, he's the best player of all time.
LeBron got that right.
All right.